Welcome back to the blog. Today's question we're going to attempt to answer is in regards to squat depth. How low should you go? Should you go to parallel, below parallel, and why? Great question, and this is something that if you simply plugged it into Google, you're probably going to get a ton of articles, maybe some of them trying to establish themselves as the truth when it comes to squat depth or the truth in squatting and technique and so on. So this video isn't going to be one of those. It's not going to be an absolute. There's going to be a lot of circumstances and factors that are going to play a role into the squat depth that one utilizes, whether it's genetic or structural, or, again, coming back to maybe some of their goals, whether it's a competitive goal, athletic goal, or an aesthetic. All right, it's going to change the framework in which we try to apply the squat and helping to make sense of it. And in this realm, all right, what I'm going to first say is squat depth, like I said to begin with, is going to vary for a number of reasons. From an athletic standpoint, let's just say the squat is either going to have a high degree of transfer for the athlete or it's going to have a very general application. A sport in which the squat is going to have a high degree of transfer is sport of powerlifting. Powerlifters have to compete in the squat, bench, and deadlift on meet day. So the squat is going to have to be a staple in their program, and the competition standards or technical standards that they have to meet for those lifts is going to be laid out by the federation in which they compete in. For example, if we consider the IPF or USA Powerlifting, the hip joint has to break below the knee joint to count as a good lift, meaning they're going to have to go below parallel, meaning in your training you're going to have to figure out if you have restrictions or limitations in getting there, whether it is something that you're cut out for. Unfortunately, not all competition standards everybody's built for. So if you lack the requisite mobility or stability from a global standpoint or within certain joints such as the hips, ankles, low back, you might need the intervention of a therapist or specialist to help assist you in improving that so that you can meet those competitive standards for the lift. And then, of course, in your training, you're going to have to get very comfortable training below parallel and grooving the pattern of what it is that you have to do come meet day. Then if you look at something such as a sprinter, 100-meter sprinter in this case, the squat and frankly most of their weight training is going to be very general in nature, as if you consider what they are doing, their competitive exercise is the event. Their competitive exercise is the 100-meter sprint. The 100-meter sprint, if you look at it in its different phases, you have the start, acceleration, you have maximal velocity, and you have speed endurance, all of which contain different biomotor, biodynamic, and even bioenergetic qualities that must be addressed in the preparatory program of that athlete. So if we look at, say, the start, this is where maybe you would see the greatest application of what you're trying to achieve from a weight room perspective, maybe with the squat or certain squat variations to improve force production. And you may not even have to make that athlete even hit parallel or below parallel, because if you look at the specified joint angles and muscle actions from a start position, the sprinter won't ever come close to a full squat, whether it's considered the parallel or below, in their competitive event. It's not to say that those movements, if you wanted to have them squat that low, don't have relevance, but there are plenty of sprinters that have utilized like box squats, high box squats, half squats, quarter squats in their preparatory program with a great deal of success. And you might see a wide range of exercise selection for that reason, because all of what they're trying to do is very general in nature, and it's not going to have a high degree of carryover to what it is that they have to do in a competitive environment. What would have a higher degree of transfer would be, if we're looking at, say, their maximal velocity, you're going to be looking at I'll say flying sprints, speed change drills, multiple or single response jumps, depth jumps, hurdle hops, all with more of a vertical component, more of a reactive or elastic quality, trying to be trained for a higher degree of transfer into their competitive environment. Now, that doesn't mean that they lack or they ignore some of the structural balance that they need. Maybe that is made up for what they lose in the squat, they make up for it in some assistance work, be it through lunges, single leg work, RDLs, different deadlifts, things of that nature. So certain athletes can more than make up for maybe what they give away in the squat in terms of depth through other accessory or assistant flips. So again, defining the application for which that you want to see the squat have used from a training standpoint or competitive standpoint will always help guide you or gear you in the direction which you should set up the training, have build out, okay, to essentially serve your competitive goals. From an aesthetic purpose, the fuller range that you're going to use, the fuller development you're going to get. And I think that's well established, it's well understood, but also be mindful of what it is that you're demanding out of your body in order to achieve that. Like I said earlier, if you have certain structural limitations or you lack certain prerequisites from a movement standpoint that are maybe interfering with the quality of, in this case, your squat technique, that is something that you might need to have evaluated or looked at. Some people are lucky and they just find it. They find the squat technique that works best for them, and then they just run with it and go and have tremendous success with it. But if you're one of those that are having frustration in your training because of maybe nagging or recurrent issues that you have associated with your squat technique or the certain application of squat variations, then you might need the intervention of a coach, therapist, or specialist to help assist you in that process. Again, these are some guidelines to help you understand the utilization of the squat. Hope it helps. Thanks for listening.